And I'm back like I never left. Welcome back to the channel. Did you know that Mozart's first name isn't actually Wolfgang, but it's Johann? I just I just learned that. I don't know if people like classical music, but I just learned that his first name is actually Johann and not Wolfgang, which kind of upset me because I thought I got the answer right on my little quiz. Turns out Wolfgang is like his second middle name. So he got his first name, and he got his second. He's got like 6 names. Anyway, so the last time we spoke, I was talking about my the past life experience, the past life experience, and all the stuff that I was doing to get to a certain point to facilitate my healing. After that experience, this was sometime in the summertime. So do you remember I was talking about when I got that reading earlier that year? And basically the reading was just like, hey, the answers that you need are coming. And it's either a full moon in Gemini or a full moon in Scorpio. Can't remember. I've got the information somewhere, but that's irrelevant for this. But the information that what you need is coming. So it wasn't, we thought like maybe it was the upcoming one, like a month after the reading, but no, it was November. So it was around that time and November came around. Now, prior to that time, I was noticing that I was started getting in a better place. I was still on the lower end of the emotional spectrum as far as like how I was feeling, but there was a increase, right? I was starting to feel better. And I noticed that at a certain point, because you remember I actually had to stop talking to Sunshine, and I had to stop engaging, and I had to stop seeing her because it was really hard for me. Like I was really struggling with that. So I had to release all of the connections that I had because I needed to heal. So that was one of those things that I did to help. So I hadn't talked to her in a long time, 6, 7 months or 8 months, 9 months, maybe. It was a long time. So November came around. It's actually like late October, and I noticed that she just would like pop up in my mind, and it wouldn't go away. Not in a bad way. It wasn't like a bad thing, but I just noticed it, and I'm just like, okay, I thought that I got over everything. I thought that I was, good to go. And she was popping up in my mind. So I was like, okay. And over the course of, let's just say 3 weeks to a month, because I believe it started in October, 3 weeks to a month, I was just like, man, what's going on? Like, it had got to the point where it was kind of habitual for this span of time, and I didn't really know what was going on. So I believe that she sent me a message. So we hadn't talked in a while. Like, it was just a little thing, and we just texted back and forth a little bit, and she was telling me some stuff that was going on, some heavier stuff. I was like, oh man, it's kind of rough. And I decided at a certain point to, what I thought would be the best thing was to release the stuff that I've been holding on to. And because either that year was really, really difficult for me, and it was all basically because of her. Like, basically because of our interaction and the whole thing that happened. And it was just like, so I figured maybe, and the reason she's popping up into my mind is that she's popping up into my mind so I can like resolve it or something. This is what I'm thinking, like, because I'm like, what's the best thing to do? What's the next step to take in the healing process? So I get on my phone and I record a voice message to simply, I guess, vent. Not angry venting, or just to take the things that I've held in and to release it to the only person that really mattered in this situation, outside of myself. Like, she's the only other party involved. So I figured this would be a good way for me to release, because everybody else, if you talk about things that just people give you standard advice, or they just say words that they don't actually feel, so it doesn't do anything. It's not actually helpful. But anyway, so it's funny because I listened to it the other day just because I was curious about how I sounded, because I haven't listened to it since. How I sounded, what I said, kind of what was going on. And it's funny when if you ever record yourself and think about what was going on in your life at the time, and whatever, and just like, so at this time I was depressed. During this whole thing I was depressed. Now at this point I started coming out of it, in a lot of ways started coming out of it, but lingering things and whatever. But I could hear it was late in the evening or late in the morning. It was kind of, maybe it was late and whatever. I wasn't like excited or anything, but still, just hearing how I was speaking, I was like, man, this was, compared to how I talk now, me making videos, or how I just, when I'm by myself, and just how I express myself, how I talk, the energy is so different now versus how I was then, which I'm always happy about, because it's the expansion. Because that was like I've said many times, that was a low point for me. That was a very, very difficult time. So my energy wasn't in a preferred place. So I listened to it, and it's just like, it's kind of releasing, just kind of releasing. And I was glad that in the end she listened to it, and she told me she listened to it, and we talked again. And I felt better. I felt better just to be able to kind of let things go, just kind of tell her how I was feeling. I wasn't intending to stir up anything. Just it was for me. Like, I needed it for me. So it was cool for a while, because we started talking again, just friendly, just talking every so often or whatever. And anytime there's a rekindling of something, it always seems to, like, oh, it rekindles, and then it becomes regular again, And that's kind of how it was for a while. But the funny thing about that, because the things that kind of come full circle in a way, maybe full spiral in a way, upward spiral, was that I was looking at her from a different place now. I was in a different place, and I was looking at her from a different place, and just the difference from where you are now from where you used to be in the relation to that person, and how you feel and how you talk and what you talk about, and the importance of these things. It's just funny to look at that and see the difference from before that and the present moment. It's just kind of one of those things that's, to me, fascinating. But I just started to notice, and after a while I started to notice that when I would speak with her, I would get really tired. And I'm just like, and it's not like we would talk for 7 hours every day. It's not like, oh, the length of time and I'm bored or something. It was like an hour, or the first time it was like 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, because obviously catching up and stuff. But after that, and when it got into like this normalcy, it was just like an hour or so, 45 minutes. And I was just like, man, I feel tired after talking to her, which never happened before. It never was like that. It used to be exciting and more energized. So I noticed at a certain point that I was getting exhausted, because she would bring up her current relationship, and then I would feel a way about it, because, and not a jealousy thing, not a standpoint of jealousy, but it's just like, what we're speaking about has nothing to do with him. And it's like, she would just insert him into it, and then harp on it, and then like keep repeating it, and then every time we talked, keep bringing it up. And it was just like, why is she doing this? And at this time, I'm like, of all people in the world who you could talk about this particular thing with your current relationship, I'm the last person who would care, right? And it was just like, it was one of those things like it made me wonder, like, is she doing this on purpose? Like, is she trying to torture me? Is it like, what's the reason? You know, a little bit of the cynicism popped up. I was just like, what did I do to deserve this? It was strange for me, and it was the beginning of learning something for me, and it was the beginning of learning boundaries, and not just boundaries with that, but like my boundaries in general, how I let people in, and then how they get to stay in versus not letting people in, being more selective, being more firm. See, I got a lot of watery Pisces energy in my chart, a lot of it, and in important places in like the first house, for example. And so something I've always struggled with, like boundaries and not being too struggle having boundaries and not being able to be firm when I say no. You know, that was always kind of a difficult thing. So this was the beginning of learning basically how to say no, putting up boundaries and saying no. And it manifested in many different ways, which is interesting because, you know, that's the thing about the universe, life. The universe will keep sending you experiences that will enable you to either do the thing that you need to do or not. But until you learn the lesson, it's going to keep giving you the experiences, right? So this was the first time. So when I noticed that when I would speak with her, I would get real tired because emotionally, I was getting better, but I still was in a place at that time where I don't want to hear about your boyfriend, who you chose over me. You know, I don't want to hear that. We can talk about you and what you got going on, but I don't need to hear about the other stuff. So I got to a point where I said, I put up a boundary. And I didn't say it to her, I put up a boundary and just like, okay, if we're talking and once she brings up this topic, I'm going to go ahead and peace out. That's going to be the end of the conversation for the day. And it's just like, because I'm not going to keep getting my energy drained in this way when it's already in such a low place. And I just, you know, start putting up that boundary or whatever. And it was really funny because as soon as I did that, because I never said anything, but as soon as I did that, like, we stopped talking again. I think we spoke one more time after that, and then that was it. Now, again, we started talking again just with whatever, and I said what I said, whatever, but it was kind of like, but that was it. And I thought that the timing of it was really funny because, again, I had made the decision to start affirming myself and affirming my boundaries. I started doing daily affirmations. And what I would do was I would make a new one every month on the new moon. Yeah, the new moon or the full moon. New moon. I would make a new affirmation and I would do that. And just, you know, affirm myself, because obviously if there's things that you're needing, things that you're lacking, you have to get in your mind to do it, and you have to keep doing it until it becomes a habit, until it, you know, until it takes on, goes subconscious, and you just do it automatically. And it helps. That was the first time I was energetically defending myself, because I didn't want to get into another situation in which I was, you know, getting my energy drains. It's talking to me or talking. It's not a. You know, it's funny when we talk on the phone or talk with people, we kind of feel trapped, right? That feel like somebody's talking, and we feel trapped, like we're trying to get away, and we're, you know, oh, I don't want to be rude. No, screw that. Now, I'm not saying to be rude, but I'm saying, where's your boundary? Because if you don't have one, if you don't have a defined boundary, then people will overstep that like it's nothing, right? Remember Charlie Murphy in the Rick James skit? He was a line stepper. He was stepping lines habitually. He was a habitual line stepper, you know? You gotta put that boundary up so people don't step over your line. And that's what that interaction at that time taught me. And I started to I started to build on that, and it's funny. In recent times, there's been more stuff like that, and more availability to do that. And I think part of my journey to this place was simply telling people no, putting up the boundary, because it's just like I moved and people started tugging on me for stuff, and I didn't want to do it. And normally it's just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll see if I can make it happen, and come out that. But now it's just like, nah, I got other stuff going on. No, I don't want to. And it's hard sometimes with family, right? Because it's family, so you want to say yes, but it's just like, they'll be okay, especially when things haven't always been reciprocal. Like I'm always the one going. I'm always the one going to do. You never come to me. I always got to come to you, right? So it was for me. It was a boundary. No, I'm not. I'm not missing out on anything. I'm not. The answer is no. And it is really important to have a healthy, have a healthy no, because overgiving, saying yes to everything, drains you. And as a chronic former overgiver, somebody who loves hard and gives, it's easy to just give, and now you're giving your vital resources away, and then you're tired, and then people just take and they don't reciprocate. So without that reciprocity, I don't feel compelled anymore. But it took practice. It took the focused effort to start saying no, to start putting up boundaries, and not that I don't. Not that I don't, I would rather you feel good, but not caring enough to where I don't care how you feel about it. Because my personal peace is actually more important. It's of greater importance. And the simple fact that, people don't think about us as much as we think they do. So what we say may not even, we might freak out over what we said. Meanwhile, they forgot the instant you said it, and they're not even worried about it. But, that's just one of those things. So it was a very interesting, that was a very interesting time, and it got me to a certain place. And I'm glad that I had the experience, because it put me on a path. It put me a path to learning what was coming up next. What was coming up next for me, and then and start doing other things that helped me to be more conscious. Yeah, help me be more conscious, help me be more present. And like doing affirmations was incredibly powerful. So highly recommend doing affirmations. The other thing that's interesting about the boundaries thing is watching other people do it as a means of learning, taking it in for yourself. I discovered this woman on YouTube, China, and at this time she was doing like live streams and stuff, pretty frequently. But I've discovered her stuff because I was looking into other stuff like human design and stuff, things that I talked about in the other videos. And I watched her old videos, and I was like, oh, okay, she's cool. I like her energy. I like her. She's knowledgeable on this stuff, and I thought she was pretty. So I was like, let me watch this pretty lady, So I was watching her stuff and she was talking about boundaries and stuff, and just the way that she would carry herself with dealing with people or with their energy and everything. And I was just like, okay, I'm kind of seeing, and what's funny about it is, and this is how you know, at least one way how you know that something might be good for you, because if it makes you uncomfortable. Because having boundaries is a good thing, right? It's a good thing. But if it's something that you struggle with and you're attempting to apply it and it's uncomfortable, like, yeah, that's something that you should work on. So one of the ways to do that is to watch other people and kind of like let it rub off on you. You're learning the tricks of the trade. And I would just watch. And I'm always fascinated by her just in general, because I think she's so powerful just in like a lot of the stuff that she does. But on a more visceral level, just on a more just grounded levels, just like, keeping boundaries and not letting people just do whatever they want or say whatever they want, or to it's almost like she's like the quintessential. You tell people how to treat you. You teach them how to treat you. Like when I think of China, I feel like she's the quintessential. Oh, I'm going to teach you how to respect me because you need to know because otherwise it's going to get crazy up in here. And I was like, dang, that's pretty. It's cool, and it's like one of those funny things where you don't really think about it, but it's necessary. It's necessary because again, you teach people how they treat you. And if you let them come up in your space and walk all over you and take and not reciprocate, they will. So you have to, you have to do that even though it's difficult. So that was part of one of the things that really helped me, just like kind of being in her space on the computer and kind of like getting that because that was something that I struggle with. So shouts out to China for that. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this one. I just wanted to kind of touch on that part of the journey. Obviously, there's going to be more coming because the story continues. There's actually this next part which I'm excited to chat about, and then ongoing parts, of course, as always. But thank you for joining me. I'll see you all in the next one. I'm Johnny Jupiter, and remember, there is no outro.